The browser automatically creates an event object when events occur. And the purpose of the object is to give you a little bit more information about the event itself. The event object has properties and it has methods that contain information about the event. And examples of information that you can obtain would be which mouse button was pressed. If they scrolled using the scroll wheel, how far did they scroll? What direction did they scroll? Where is the mouse pointer's X and Y coordinate? Okay. If they pushed keys on the keyboard, what keys did they press? So you can find out all of that information about the event. And some of the more popular properties and a description of what they did, I've included in this table. And for a comprehensive list, select the link. And then I kind of broke this into different categories. For the mouse event object, the different things that you can find for the keyboard event. Okay, you can see there's focus events, animation events, wheel, all sorts of different types of events. And all of this information can be accessed through the event object. So in order for you to have access to the event object, we have to change the way we are coding our function calls, because you actually have to pass the event object to the function. And it doesn't matter if you're using a named function or an anonymous function. Either way, you still have to pass the event object. And first, we're going to take a look at anonymous functions. And so looking at this little anonymous function, when they click on the element that has the ID of back, we're going to call this anonymous function. And you'll notice that we're passing it an E. This variable name can be whatever you want, but it represents the event object. So you can call it event, or I like to shorten it. I just call it E. Okay, but it doesn't matter what you call it. You can call it EV or spell out event, but you have to pass it in order to access the properties and the methods of the event itself. And you'll notice what I did was I used console log. So it's going to actually log to our developer console window a couple of the different properties. So e.which is the mouse button that was selected. And then it's going to show me the coordinate for the mouse, the X and the Y position. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the random color business with the background color. Okay, but before it does that, it's going to log this information to the console. So I'm going to run this. And then to actually see the console, we'll just play around here. To see the console itself, I have to press F12. Now on my laptop, which I'm currently using, I have to press Fn. And while I'm pressing Fn, I can press F12. And all of these little messages are the console.log messages. So you can see the mouse button was selected. It shows the coordinates, and that's for when I clicked on this one. And then when I clicked on change text, it says the left mouse button was selected, and these were the coordinates, the X and the Y coordinates when I clicked here. Okay. And then for the third one, you can see the same thing. Left mouse button was selected, the X and Y coordinates. Now these are fairly wide buttons, so if I click on the first one at the beginning of the button, you can see that I got a 12 and a 62, whereas before I got a 43 and a 67. Okay, so it is trying to tell you exactly where your mouse is. Now if I move to the end of the button, you can see 129 and 59. So it's trying to show me exactly where the mouse was when I actually clicked on the button. And again, the only reason that I have access to that information is because I passed the mouse object. Okay, and so you'll notice that it is an object, and so I can use it to access properties. I could also use it to call the event methods. We have a couple little examples from the book. So this little example, we're taking document get element by ID, SX. That is short for screen X, the screen X coordinate. You see SX is set equal to the screen X coordinate, SY to the screen Y coordinate. Then we've got the page X and page Y, client X and client Y. So we've got little shortened versions of this. And then what it's doing in the screen itself is we're passing the event object, and we're using the object to access the screen X property, the screen Y, the page X, the page Y, the client X, and the client Y. Okay, and we're actually updating values in the form. Okay, so we're basically using document.getElementById sy dot value. And then we've got document or sx dot value. And then here we've got sy. Well, sy is all of that. So it's basically document get element by sy dot value. And then for px, that's representing this. So px is actually document dot get element by ID px dot value. Okay, we use dot value if we're dealing with a form. So looking at this, you can see we've got our little input boxes up here. And as I move my mouse around, you can see, I can see where screen X and screen Y are, page X, page Y, client X and client Y. Client X and client Y is your mouse. Okay. So that little snippet of code that I showed you is what it's using to update these values. Okay, and all it's done here is it's just created a variable to store this portion. So we can use the variable name dot value instead of having to key all of this in. And then you will notice that we do have a event listener that activates every time we move the mouse. Okay, and it's going to call show position, which is right here. And that is why all of those values are updated as you're moving the mouse around on the screen. Another example from the book. Basically, it's going to count down the number of characters entered, showing you how many characters are left. And you'll see we have a function called character count, and we are passing an event here, declaring quite a few variables. We have text entered set to document get element by ID message.value. So whatever was put in the input box is being stored in text entered. Okay, and then we've got document get elements by ID characters left. That gets stored in character display. And then we do 180 minus the length of the text that they entered. Okay, and text entered is up here. And then we are updating a content box with the counter, okay, which is 180 minus the text entered dot length. And then we're storing whatever the last key was and a little message. And you can see down here that we've got document get element by ID message, attached an event listener to that. And every time we take our fingers up on the keyboard, it's going to call character count. So basically, every time we type something in, it's running through this function and it's figuring out how many characters are left. Okay, so right now it's 180 characters are left. Okay, and then it's showing me the ASCII for the last letter. Okay, so again, last key.text context. Okay, that's this. And the character display.text content is the counter. Remember, the counter is 180 minus the number of characters they've entered.